I want to first give all praise and all honor to the God of my ancestors, the God of Africa, the Almighty Amen-Ra. This is your brother Radio 1, coming back at you again with another video of truth and historical reality. And the name of this video is The Land of Canaan was in Africa, but the Israelites were not African. Yes, that is what some of you have to understand. And what disturbs me is this fake Hebrew Israelite movement that's going on, that is causing black people in America and even Africans on the continent to become traitors of their African ancestors. Yes, to betray their African ancestors in favor of this fake Hebrew faith, the same Hebrew faith that enslaved our ancestors. Have you Negroes listened to Dr. John Henry Clark? Did you listen to Dr. John Henry Clark when he told you about these people? These people called Hebrew Israelites were never friends of Africa. They were enemies of Africa. They always used Africa, used and abused Africa for their own benefit. And when it was all said and done, they turned their back on Africa. They betrayed Africa. Even after Africa gave them shelter, gave them food, and even gave them their religion and foundation. You Negroes are disgusting me with this Hebrew Israelite movement. You don't know nothing. You don't know the damage that it has caused to Africa and the damage that it is causing now. A lot of this Hebrew faith is making you Negroes look like straight coons. And I even had some try to tell me that I am a coon for embracing Africa, the real Africa. And I responded to him and I said these words. I said, you are the one trying to claim the culture and history of these pale-skinned Hebrew Arab-looking people, and you're going to have the nerves to call me a coon for trying to keep it real and trying to claim real black people? And I told him, Negro, get the hell out of here. You are the real coon. But back to the subject. Yeah, I want to make it clear. Okay? Some of y'all want to say, well, Israel is in Africa. Well, Israel is the least African out of all African territories. Know why? Because it borders Asia. It is the closest part of Africa to Asia. All the Africa in the interior, okay, that is the real Africa. Look at my flag, okay? You see that? That is the real Africa. Do you see Israel on there? Do you see the land of Canaan on there? No. It's not included. And although, yes, some of you say, well, Israel was in Africa. Well, even if that is the case, the Israelites were not African. That's what you have to understand. The Canaanites, yes, the Canaanites were African. But the Israelites, or the Hebrew Israelites, were not African. Now, I won't be long, but I will be strong. Now, to prove my point, we're going to go to Genesis. And we're going to deal with Abraham, okay? Abraham is the forefather of the Hebrew Israelites. And we're going to see where did he come from. And it goes on to say, Genesis chapter 11, okay? Genesis chapter 11, we're going to start at 27. These are the family records of Terah. Terah is a descendant of Shem. Terah fathered Abraham, Nahor, and Haran. Haran begot Lot. Haran died in his native land in Ur of the Chaldees. Ur of the Chaldees is in modern day Iraq and Iran, which was known as Mesopotamia. That was not in Africa. That was in Asia, what is known today as the Middle East. Okay, so the ancestors of the Hebrew Israelites were not indigenous Africans. Let's make that clear. They came from Asia. They came from the east, from the land where the Tigris and Euphrates was at. That is where they came from. And you Africans, you're really disgusting your ancestors. The ancestors are turning over in their graves because of this fake movement. And we know, as history tells it, the start of this movement began when white Christians came into Africa and gave Africans the Bible. Yes, that is where your Israelite identity came from. Before this, the Africans in Africa knew nothing about the Bible. They knew nothing about Abraham. They knew nothing about Moses. None of that. That is the historical reality. That's not a myth. There's a lot of myths and pseudo-history going around these days. That is the historical reality. So your first so-called Hebrew Israelites into Africa were none other than white Christians. So y'all need to stop betraying your African ancestors because they are disappointed at you. No wonder why we're still on the bottom. And when we deal with slavery, there was no slavery in West Africa before Islam. Islam and Christianity brought slavery into West Africa. Yes. Before that, our ancestors in West Africa were living in peace. We were known as Ethiopians. And we traded merchandise, okay, with the Carthaginians. The Carthaginians were Phoenician Canaanites. They were not Hebrews. That is a lie. Don't believe that lie. They were Phoenician Canaanites. The Phoenicians were Canaanites. That's a historical fact, not a myth. But, and to those of you that say that the Kemetic community, okay, and the Israelites need to unite, well, I'm here to tell you that no, that's not going to happen. That is impossible. That's not going to happen. The Israelites in Kemet or the Kemetics, such as myself, we are never going to unite. You know why? Because there is no reasoning with the Hebrew Israelites. Okay, I told them time and time again that they are living a lie, that no Israelites ever set foot in West Africa. That is a historical fact. You may have some myths that say that, but when we deal with the historical facts, no. No Jews and no Israelites ever settled in West Africa. And the reason why we will never be able to unite is because the Hebrew Israelites are trying to push a Hebrew supremacy type of movement. If you're not down with the Hebrew Israelite movement, they don't want to unite with you. They don't. So to my brothers and sisters that's in the Kemetic community, forget about this Hebrew Israelite nonsense. Stop trying to unite with them. They do not want to unite with you unless you are a Hebrew Israelite like them. That is a fact. They are on the same divide and conquer agenda as the white man and the Arab. You hear them talking all the time that they're going to slave this person and slave that person. Well, to be honest, people, the Hebrew Israelites in the Bible, they were never that powerful where they can enslave all nations. Never. Read it for yourself. They were never that powerful. Every time they were in trouble, they always looked to Pharaoh in Egypt to protect them. When the Assyrians came up on them, they did not have the power to defend themselves. When the Babylonians came upon them, they did not have the power to defend themselves. So all this talk that you're going to enslave all the nations, cut it out. That is a myth. Because the Israelites in the Bible in history never had the power to enslave all nations. That is a lie. You can keep on living that fantasy all you want, but it's never going to happen. And there's a lot of fake history going on, being taught. But some of you know the truth and you know it's a lie, but you don't have the heart and the bravery to speak out against it because you fear these fake, wicked, devilish Hebrew Israelites or the Hebrew elders that started this mess. So, if you love truth and you love history, you love reading about history, and you're trying to find yourself in history, say no to this Hebrew Israelite garbage. Say no to this Hebrew Israelite deception, because they are going about it the wrong way. Okay? When we go to Isaiah 11:11, but let's continue with Abraham. Okay? So it says, Haran died in his native land in Ur of the Chaldees during his father Terah's lifetime. Abraham and Nahor took wives. Abraham's wife was named Sarah, and Nahor's wife was named Milcah, was the daughter of Haran, the father of both. And he said, Terah took his son Abraham, his grandson Lot, and his daughter-in-law Sarah, his son Abraham's wife, and they set out together from Ur of the Chaldees to go to the land of Canaan. Okay? That is the book of Genesis chapter 11:31. So we see that the forefather of the Hebrew Israelites came from Ur of the Chaldees. They were not indigenous to the land of Canaan, so therefore they were not Africans. But I don't want to claim no land of Canaan, because that land has nothing to do with me and my true ancestors. Yes, my ancestors were also slaves on those ships, and they were not Hebrews or Hebrew Israelites. They were Africans. Africans, please hear me out. Did you not listen to Julius Malema when he told you that Africans need to unite, not Hebrews unite? This Hebrew stuff is fake. So hear me out. Stop embracing this Hebrew madness. Embrace Africa and Africa only. Yes, the Canaanites were our brothers. And they got slaughtered and they got kicked out and their land got took over by these Hebrews from Asia. That is the truth. Some of you Hebrew Israelites saying, well, yeah, we ride with Kemet. We ride with Kemet. No, you do not. Because you're wasting your time with this Hebrew Israelite mess. If you let go of this Hebrew Israelite mess and start embracing Kemet 100%, and then you will be riding with Kemet. But until then, no, you are not. So, yes, I'm going to cut it short, but I just had to make this video because the Hebrew Israelites are living a lie. And I also want to state another fact. There was a thing called, back in the days, called the law of return. In this law of return, it demanded that all Jews and Israelites return to Israel. And guess who did not make the list? Black Americans. Because we were not included. Because our ancestors were Africans. So Africa, please, Hear me out when I tell you this. Stop trying to make African people Hebrew. They are not Hebrew. They are African. Stop trying to be a fake Hebrew African and just be a real African. Why is it so hard for you to do that? Even if you are a Christian or if you do follow the Bible, at least know that you are African. Stop trying to go the extra mile in order to be a phony and a fraud. Just because you follow the Bible, all of a sudden you are a descendant of Jacob or an Israelite, when the history does not say that. And I'm going to go to Isaiah 11:11, and then I'm going to close it out there. Okay, because some of you just do not get it. Okay, and trust me when I tell you this, these Hebrew Israelite elders that started this mess, they have lied to you. They have took written history and falsified it and sold you a lie. That is what happened. I know. I've been there and done that. You can't tell me nothing. Some of you are just starting out into this. You don't know nothing. But let's go to Isaiah 11:11, and we're going to find out why the black Americans did not make the return to Israel during the law of return. Okay? And it goes on to say in Isaiah 11:11, on that day the Lord will extend his hand a second time to recover from Assyria, Egypt, Pathros, Cush, Elam, Shinar, Hamath, and the coasts and islands of the west, the remnant of his people who survive. So it said, okay, Assyria, which is modern day Iraq, Egypt, which is modern day Egypt, Pathros, which is southern Egypt, Cush, which is modern day Sudan and Ethiopia, Elam, which is modern day Iran, also known as Persia, Shinar, which was Sumeria in Mesopotamia, Hamath, which was to the north of Israel, and the coasts and islands of the west, which was the Greek islands or the islands of the Gentiles. Okay, that is where the Israelites and Jews went to. They never went to West Africa. And some of you say, well, Cush is talking about West Africa. No, stop that. Cush was not West Africa. Cush was Africa south of Egypt, modern day Sudan and Ethiopia. That is the Philosopher's identity. Stop trying to steal their identity. The Israelites that went into Cush were the ancestors of the Philosophers. They were not our ancestors. Yes, West Africa is mentioned in the Bible. It is called the land of Foot. And no Israelites ever set foot in the land of Foot. And even in later history, still no mention of Israelites in West Africa. It's not till a very late period, and it's just as good as made up. Just as good as made up. So that is why we did not make the law of return, because the story, when we deal with the Babylonian exile, the Assyrian exile, the sack of Jerusalem in 70 AD, that has nothing to do with our ancestors that were in West Africa. That is talking about a whole nother people. And don't sit up here and tell me about some map in Judah or some map that says Weda or Uda or Yuda or Wuda, whatever. That's not evidence. That's weak. And don't sit up here and tell me about some prophecy in Deuteronomy 28 that already came to pass in 70 AD. But I just had to say that, okay? I'm not attacking my Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters. I'm attacking lies and falsehood. That's what you have to understand. Some of you may take it the wrong way and say that I am attacking the Hebrew Israelites. No, I am attacking their lies and falsehood and their fake history. That's what I am attacking. And you are all my brothers and sisters, and I want you to stop trying to steal the culture of other people. We got different movements going on. We got one side saying we the Hebrew Israelites. You got another side saying we the Aborigine Americans or the Aboriginal Americans. And we have another side saying we are the Moors. I'm saying we are neither. I'm saying we are Africans. We are Hamites. The descendants of Mizraim. That is who we are. There were different branches of Hamites in West Africa. We just happen to be the descendants of Mizraim. And I'm going to make videos and documentaries proving that. Because your history has been lied to you. Okay? Your history has been hidden from you. And you have been lied to about your true history. And that is why you are trying to claim the identity of others, because you have not been told the truth about your own history. So, and some of y'all thinking I'm coming hard on y'all, excuse me, but, you know, I really don't mean to, but I love my people. I love myself. I love Africa. I love the ancestors. So, let's start telling the truth. Let's unite. Let's get it right, people. Let us know and recognize who our enemies are. And let us know and recognize who our ancestors are. And let us know and recognize who our people and allies are. This is your brother Radio 1, coming back at you again with another video of truth and historical reality. And until next time, Egypt and Kush stays in Africa. Peace and Amen Ra.